know if that book wants to read something else, but at least that it's topically relevant to the underlying need. And there's recommended books which are suggested by humans that have knowledge of the domain. At least they are confident enough that they make a good recommendation to, well, under their own name, post this on the forum. So again, we have a nice topic statement, complete narrative, example book, and at least a few suggestions that are probably relevant to the team. Just to show you that library thing, so per book, it has also statistics, popularity rating, how many members have that in their personal catalog. There's a bunch of tags, a tag cloud, over all the people having this in their catalog, and there's a bunch of reviews, in this case it's one. On average there are 5 reviews, but the median is 0, so it's just, the Harry Potters have like thousands of reviews. And the average bit of prose from India probably has 0 or 1. Okay, so, and all these things, because we live in a world of books, it's clear what the entity is we're talking about is the book, although book and entities are not that clear because many editions, even of the English version one, there might be a UK, a US, a paperback, a hardback, an Australian, an Indian English version, etc. That actually have different ISBNs, but actually already library thing does this normalization of work or expression, other organizing science terminology. So they already did basically the mapping of basically the same books, the same content to ISBNs, or at least one of the ISBNs they use as the basis for the library work items. So we can solve, well, we have pretty nice unique identifiers, basically unique identifiers. That's all provided already by library thing, or it's provided by the people using library thing, because they had a book and it says this is a new book. We say, no, I saw it before, but it's a different publisher. They've gone. Okay, so we mainly thought that forums would be great for topics. So what we do is just crawl them, semi-manually, what we crawl, stop at some point when we have more than enough semi-manually selected threads where at least books occurred that seem to be addressed as books. There's just not some query words. Selecting some out. Well, the title of the thread is one sentence or a proper sentence. That's kind of the topic query, so that's the usual thing you would probably feed your system. The long narrative is probably more used for judgment, but it was also in the topic field. Some people use that actually also to feed to the engine. Somehow we build a first index and just look at the threads that at least pick up in the top 1,000 somewhere on the title. Some of the books that were suggested either as an example or as a recommended book, just to make sure that the things that are very complex or that might be errors, we stay clear of. And we just selected, I don't know why it was 211. I think we went for 250 and somehow we had 250 and then later the post-processing somewhere not out. So issues with that. So those topics were used last year or 2011. A bunch of other topics was released already earlier, so people actually had so much material to check. Okay, so the suggestions. So we thought this is a good source for the topic statement. This is natural statement with some context, natural requests, natural needs. But the suggestions we thought is just a nice start. Like I said, it's not that many relevant books, but of course we call topics that have relatively few. So over the 2011, the median was 7, the mean was 11. This does include the example book. Sometimes people in the topic statement already mentioned 2 or 3 books they have read. And like I said, our expectation was this is highly incomplete. Because who on that day is in the forums? What did they read? So probably these are valuable suggestions, but it's only a small fraction of what would be in theory bona fide or the useful suggestions in the person. Because of that, we anticipated to do a lot of post assessments, just pooling and post assessments. We actually did that in agriculture. looks like. Well, this is basically, we had a color coding which looks nice here, but it's a little bit faint there. So there's purple for more publisher provided for traditional metadata. There's green for user-generated content. There's a book request. Well, we ask for familiarity, half shown at the bottom. Then there were 10 books. I will show here one, which show both information, which is authoritatively at least is edited by professional editors, supervised, and data that comes from the text and the reviews of library thing, and then ask a bunch of questions on, well, aiming at the relevance, how much this book is on topic, which of the two sources of information was the most useful for this book, and separately, even if it's on topic or not, whether they would recommend this book, which information is more useful for the recommendation. And we asked them to pick out the most useful tag, also a little bit as a control against fraud. That's something we can test very easily if somebody actually entered in this field the tag actually according to the tag route. There's a tick for it. There was no tag in the tag route. So it's a nice control mechanism, which is still useful for us. This could be a quite expensive or do experiments with that, which is something up to now did not. So we only used it as a control mechanism. It's a natural catch ban. You do a natural catch ban, people get annoyed if they have to do silly things just to show I'm a human. If you do a natural one, people think that it makes sense. So just, well, you kind of always have to be careful. So there was in every set of 10 books somebody did, there was one of which we knew or expected was one of the known suggestions, so assumed to be relevant. There's some dependency between the answers. If you say this is on topic, then this limits the options on the recommendation. There's type context because the user-generated content is not always there, which is actually an advantage to detect fraud, because if they answer, yeah, for this I used the review, there was no review, and actually we also, because it's English literature, English books, we restricted it to US workers with some application at MTurk, because we know that generally has very limited fraud, and actually as it turned out, we only rejected 7 gigs, which were mostly for not filling out all fields, and actually that's often the case that people accidentally push a button or accidentally submit already. So even of the 7, we got at least 4 times, we got an email of somebody apologizing that they accidentally submitted that before it was finished, we rejected it. So that was low fraud, and we had partial control of it. So basically, well, we had submissions for the track, so we could now evaluate in various ways. We needed to synchronize the ISBN in the forums with the library thing IDs, which are actually better because they conflate books, similar books, well, that have for other reasons a different ISBN. So we need to do some post-processing on the webs, and we use a greater relevance measure. Okay, yeah, I should have pointed that out. So there's 211 topics we use from the forums, but we did not assess with MTurk over 200 topics that would be a little bit expensive. So we picked 24 of that, which were picked actually half of them fiction and half of them non-fiction. So we kind of have 3 sets of judgments. That's the whole set of the forums with the suggestions of the forums, the restriction to the 24 topics that are also addressed in MTurk, and the MTurk judgments for those 24 topics. As you can see, the selection library suggestions for 211. Well, the library thing forums, the subset of 24 is more or less agreeing well with the 211, the whole set, but the agreement with the Amazon data is incomplete. So it could be that the thing we asked is actually not relevant. So not more or less the topical relevance question in the discussion. So it could either be that what they do at the forums is not really topical relevance, or it could be the incompleteness of the suggestions. And then we were very surprised, because the best submitted system scored a mean reciprocal rank of almost 0.5 on the library suggestions. And that we were really struck by. So that means that, say on average, on rank 2, there is a suggestion from the forums in the ranking. So if the suggestions from the forum, what we expected to be, say, maybe it's 1% of the suggestions you would give on the whole corpus. But then, if it's only 1%, then by chance you could be at rank 1 or 2, but not over all topics on average at rank 2. So if it's usually at 1, and sometimes at 2, sometimes at 3, and on average at rank 2, this kind of means that the forum suggestions must be approximately complete. If say, even if we missed like half of them, well, the system should be perfect. So if we kind of throw away half of the forum suggestions, this MRR will drop, divide by half, will divide by half. So if the forum suggestions would be kind of half of the possible suggestions, the system should already be perfect in this corner. It is. So probably it's not completely complete, but actually it's approximately complete, which surprised us, because we would have expected here a very low score. Which is a positive, because this says to us that, well, at least completeness is no issue. And this is not a set based on pooling, so it's insensitive to the system contributing to the pool. So it's optimal to reuse with different new systems. And it's a real need. It's real human expert judgments. We don't know exactly the task, so maybe it's not the same as ad hoc topical relevance what they do. They ask for a book to read to be recommended, but it's actually better than what we can do with Amazon Turk. So at that point, we decided to make the library thing forums the official evaluation, and we still did the MTurk evaluations just to analyze and control and to see what's actually happening. Well, what's interesting now, we have descriptions with many fields, both official metadata fields and user-generated contents. So what we did is actually build special indexes in a system, not official submissions, but a separate system that has indexes on particular fields. In this case, a fairly standard language. Now we can look at how important certain information is. So how much can we find by only looking at the title, how much can we find, etc. So what's striking here is that the reviews, kind of the horizontal line, they are effective for all the types of judgments. So on the right you have the suggestions from the forum. There they are on average by far some distance the most effective. Also for the judgment on relevance, whether it is relevant or useful from the forum. Also on the judgment whether the book should be recommended, and also on the set of books that according to the words of MTurk is both on the topic and it's a book that's worthy of recommendation. Interestingly, the titles work relatively well for relevance according to the Amazon Turk, and they completely fail basically for library suggestions. It's also interesting that the standard language model, which is kind of optimized for ad hoc retrieval, has no problem with the reviews or the social data. So it's kind of working out of the box quite well for whatever the different aspects are of that data. And if you compare the different sets, the set of documents that the workers at Amazon both thought were on topic and thought they were recommendable, that's kind of the closest of sets to the suggestions at the forum. But it's not ideal. Okay. We also looked a bit, so this is more ad hoc retrieval, but we also looked at, so what if maybe the forum suggestions have some aspects of known non-item retrieval. So we created a separate set of non-item topics. The number of recommended books at the forum is usually low, so it would still be more or less non-item-ish. But the topics, the non-item topics we generated are very different. In particular, that for the item topics, the title field works very well. For the forum suggestions, the title is very weak. Just to do more analysis of the Amazon turn data. So if there is no review, then in 37% of if there's no review, the Turkers are still able to say whether the book is more or less on topic. They're happy with that. But in over 50% of the cases, they don't know. They say it's not enough information to determine whether the book should be recommended or not. So that's interesting as well. If you have the library style data, you can make the judgment that the book is on topic and the favorable conditions, but whether this is a book, really the book, the interesting book, the book you should read, you don't. Interestingly enough, the reviews are both relevant for, are both useful for the relevance as well as for the recommendation. Where say that there is no review, you can still usually make the decision whether the book is on topic, but not what is recommendable. And the text actually have little impact, so they help to capture the subject of the book, but they're not very useful for the text. This is a particularly useful to be recommended. We also asked whether their decision was based mostly on the metadata or on the user-generated data. So what you can see here that if there's no reviews, so there might be text but no reviews, then people are making the judgments on the official metadata, and they generally have a problem making the recommendation, so they can't make the recommendation. If there is at least one review, then actually already relevant judgments is primarily made on the user-generated content, so the review, and they can also make a decision on whether this book actually is something. It's on topic, but should I recommend it, or maybe I should say, or actually not recommend. Okay, so this social book search is a nice playing field to study this changing data we have on the web, because it's nicely structured. We have a lot of knowledge. We have nice authoritative descriptions from the old days, from the library, from the publishers, and there's a lot of social data as well. So it's an interesting test drive area. The forums really make a difference because this gives us access to real, genuine user needs with lots of detail. And in fact, there's also suggestions. And to our surprise, to our own surprise, the suggestions are complete enough to actually use as a sort of relevance judgment in descriptive evaluation. If you look at the details, the reviews are very important and are ignored by the current search engines, they are distinctly more useful for search and for recommendation, for basically for everything. Of course, that's a small list. It's user-generated content. You find fraud in the system, or you don't know who writes it, but on average, they're very useful. So this year we continued. Again, more or less the same motivation, but we really wanted to understand more and better what's happening at the forum, what's that judgment, what makes a book recommended by these experts on the forum, or amateur experts on the forum. We looked at that, so the forum is the same, although we actually got some complaints that the Amazon data is not really the proper library data, so we also got British Library and Library of Congress marked descriptions, so official library descriptions of the same books. Coverage is pretty high, not all, over 70% of them. And we also got the person on the forum, we know who they are, so we can also get their own catalog. So we know if somebody posts at the forum, we can look at what they own, we can even look at what they own at the moment when they post and what they own later on. So we also got these profiles. Judgments, judgments are again the suggestions from the forum text because that worked very well. And the task is trying to simulate whatever is happening on the forums as close as possible. There are some extra topics. We bumped it up to 300. Like to use the old topic set, also for analysis. This is nice to have over here the same set. And look at well, we also now have the profile, so we have a lot more information in the topic set. So each of these suggestions on the form is a human judgment, so it's relevant in some sense, but we want to figure out in what sense. The topic creator actually might not like every suggestion. So they ask for books, you suggest me a book. Well, some of those suggestions I might follow up, and some others I might ignore. And in fact, we can find that out because we have access to the catalog of the books. So how does it work? So this is a personal decision of the poster on the forum. There might be various reasons why the person likes a suggestion, dislikes a suggestion. So we have again, this is the example of before. A person said, I read this book, I like to read similar books. There's a list of suggestions. And what we can see in the catalog of this person. So at September 1, the person adds this book on rethinking multiculturalism. Just flip back. That's the book he read. And now he asked for more books. One of the suggestions is this multicultural citizenship. That's the other one. Multicultural policies and politics in the vernacular from the first posting. And in fact, so this is September 26, reply September 27, and on October 25. The person adds this politics in the vernacular. So that suggestion apparently was very valuable. In fact, even with 3 stars, so he liked it a lot. Very good recommendation. He liked it even better than the original book, which gave it 2 stars. So we know which suggestions are followed up, in a sense. And well, if it's not followed up, doesn't mean it's a bad suggestion, but at least we know of some that are actually followed up. That's it. So what we did is we look in particular at those in the topic set that have at least one post-catalog suggestion. So this is the topics in the topic set where at least we have access. Depends a little bit on the timing, how much later it is. At least one of the suggestions later added to the personal catalog of the person asking the question. And we use a graded measure where the books that people actually followed up and bought and added to their catalog, they get the relevance value for graded measures. Some of the Finnish magic. Any suggestion we just get one, so there's some relevance. We know that already from the earlier year. And actually this year we carefully removed the example suggestion because we did allow participants also to use that part of the topic. And then of course those runs that have an example have no problem finding that same example and choose to take it. So we were a little more careful about that this year. Well, lots of numbers. I'll give you the reference where to look up. The Royal School of Higher Innovation in Copenhagen was very active, and in fact they had the best run, which did something, well, maybe not completely realistic, but just any information in the topic statement, including the example documents, including the full narrative, they used as a query, and they used all the fields we have, all the information we have about the books, and that gave the best overall result. Of course, that's a somewhat unrealistic statement. Most runs actually used only the title statement, so the short-ish statement. People were using the profile information to do more traditional type of recommendation. We know what the composer, what's in the catalog at what point in time. So you can actually see what does the person own, what is his profile in terms of the books his person buys. I have to say, the jury is still out. people did their first trial of that, we didn't have proper evaluation or training data for them. Time was short, but there was not yet a big jump up from actually using that type of data. It's also a little bit tricky how to integrate that type of more recommendation style. This was like these books, so if you do on that basis, and of course, a large set of what books people catalog, and based on that, the traditional recommendation, but how to integrate that now in this very topical search. Because many of these people on the forums are very avid readers, so they read a lot of books, often on a lot of topics, and their request is about a specific topic, so it has some differences to traditional recommendations. So I think there's still lots of options to get this further. Again, as I told, the forum suggestions are relatively complete, at least they seem complete enough to use for evaluation, which we happily did. So again, we use MTurk data mostly to analyze and figure out, to actually understand what is now this judgment we get on the likely think form, and then we create it also by having synthetic judgments on Amazon. So again, this is a slightly different design. We'll do this, show the example. Here it's not that cheap. For 25 topics, we spend about $500 US. It's cheaper than hiring people to do judgments in the country. You can imagine that it's cheaper here to hire people. But it's kind of an amount of money we can afford evaluation for. So based on literature on why people borrow books, we got a lot of aspects, so subject, genre, recency, etc., etc., etc. So both on the topic we ask what aspects are relevant to this book. Also, again, you get 10 requests. We ask again which of the aspects is satisfied. Again, the difference this year is we have the buttons at the top. So instead of having the very full display, the title information is shown by default. That's the first button, and there's catalog information, full text. We actually log the interaction as well while they're searching it, so we know as well what exactly the worker did or consulted before he gave a judgment. Let me just show you the main judgment, because we have a scale that's kind of covering both the topical relevance-ish things and the recommended aspects. Two-dimensional judgments, but in one easy pull down. So this is the scale, so it goes from it perfectly fits the request. It looks like a great book. That's a book that's both on topic and recommendable. Then there's cases when it's relevant, it's not relevant, but still recommendable. Probably it doesn't fit the request completely, but it's a very popular, very amazing book. It could also be fits the request, but doesn't look like it's worth reading, so that's kind of relevant, but not recommendable. Well, not a request means it's not fitting. That's a special case, but it's already read this book. Pool. Of course, people are still returning the example related about materials, but they are still in the pools, so we get back in. And obviously, we don't know which we treat as the non-relevant. We don't know, so it's interesting to separate that category. Well, people know it's not non-relevant, but they don't enough to make a judgment. Quality control is similar. Let's go through that. So the question on would you recommend the book? Actually, the agreement was fairly high. So for relevance separately, the agreement is the magical 70%, the golden rule of the social science. It's kind of the fairest agreement you generally have in subjective judgments. For recommendation, independently, it's the same. If we combine that, you have a slightly more complex judgment, cognitively more complex, and usually you have slightly lower agreements. It's the same at graded scales. You have highly relevance, you see that the agreement is still high, but it's dropping so. So this is very, very, very normal and expected numbers.